Hi there. Hello. That's a bit quiet. Let's turn that a bit up. Why is it a bit quiet? I don't know. Maybe it's just too low over here. Hi. That's a sudden increase. Something, yeah. These low quality products, cheap quality products. I'll get a better one eventually. Trust me. Anyway, welcome and hi, and it's Friday, just about 10:30 over here, so only a little bit of it left. I'm going to try and record this and upload it still on Friday, and if I don't manage it, that'll be expected, but nonetheless, that's the goal. What are we looking at today? Well, there's been two main releases this week, I would say. One of them is the new Gorillaz album, which I had a listen to, hopefully, wishing for something to be particularly exciting on there. And the best I got was Delirium. And Delirium is pretty fun, but broadly the album is it's not interesting for me. And no shade to all the people who seem to be really enjoying it, but I thought that there was just not that much to any of the songs. I think there's some quite fun, unusual time signature raps in it. There's a 3/4 one and a 6/8 one, so that's something. But just not that much to talk about, really. I mean, Delirium has Mark E. Smith on, and it's always worth a little bit of a go with the ending words with a I don't know, the weather report kind of thing. Good old Mark E. Smith, rest in peace. But we're not going to have a look at that today. We're going to have a look at the other massive album this week, which is Nothing's About to Happen to Me by Mitski. I have a love-hate relationship with Mitski. It's not really love-hate. What it is I don't like half of the music that other people love by Mitski, and I haven't listened to anything pre-Puberty 2. I think Puberty 2 is decent, but I've only listened once. But I think the most famous song from that, what is it? Best American Girl is really good. Be the Cowboy was so ridiculously applauded, and I found it pretty boring in the main, though I do have a pretty high respect for a Pearl. And it's interesting that one, okay, no, it's not. For some reason I read Geyser as Coyote then. I see Mitski's sort of role in the broader music spectrum is as someone who is adventurous enough to make music that brings other people out of their comfort zones. That's what I think Mitski's really good with, because a large proportion of Mitski's music, with the exception, I would say, of quite a lot of stuff on Laurel Hell, which I should go back and listen to. I know people didn't enjoy it nearly as much, but I think it's quite interesting, and it's very, very different to the other main albums that she's released. But with the exception of that one, these songs are on the border of, let's say, middle of the road Americana with alt rock tinges, sort of 90s alt rock. You could imagine the Breeders perhaps making similar sounding songs, or maybe Garbage, although with less Garbage are definitely more high octane. But anyway, these are the genres that broadly make up Mitski's music, but then she does push those slightly further than you might expect, and so that there's a real element of sort of pushing the relatively tight envelope of those songs. Case in point is going to be Where's My Phone. Now, Where's My Phone is actually significantly more boundary pushing than most songs on here, with maybe the exception of That White Cat, which is a weird one. Rules has a fun thing on it to do with counting, which initially was annoying, but then it dealt with it in a really satisfying way. Lightning is the only other song that I really like on this album, and it's very much in the kind of shape of a pearl, maybe without being as dramatic. Anyways, let's have a listen to Where's My Phone and let's see what's going on. Nice, relaxed but slightly tight kind of kit sound. It doesn't sound fully acoustic, comfortable spectrum, stereo sound around a kit, but it sounds pretty open and pretty flappy, so it's not very tight. Yeah, a nice kind of sound, and giving us a swing time feel straight from the well, a triplet feel really, but with a real emphasis on the 1 3 1 2 1 3 1 1 a 2 a 3 a 4 kind of thing, straight from the off, which is nice. Yeah, just settling in with a straightforward B flat chord there from the guitar, and then straight in with the first verse. And the chord sequence, very straightforward. If we make these a bit bigger, so not just the power chords, we get B flat major, F major, G minor, D major, E flat major, and then we come to rest again on the B flat major. 1 2 3 4 5 6 chords, and then we just stay there for a 7 and an 8, which is a little unexpected. A little unexpected that we would have sort of this return home earlier than normal. Normally, if we're going to do it a 4 chord sequence, we'll do that and then return straight on the 5th chord. But here we go to the 5th chord, which is a new chord, but then the 6th, 7th and 8th, or at least the 6th, 7th and 8th bars, are all the same chord that we started on. So it's a weird come back home early there. Let's listen to how the melody fits with that. In fact, we miss off that 8th bar entirely, don't we? As we just counted, or I just did. So we've kind of just got 3 phrases there in the vocals, and they're almost equal as well in length. That's the first one. Then we jump quite a lot lower for the other one, but it jumps up at the end. Where's my phone? Jumps up, and then da da da. Very similar phrase, just going one higher at the end. And it just sort of tail off da at the end. But yeah, so well, that fits very comfortably with the chords. Straightforward, really matching notes there. Da 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 da. Right, so each note is finding its home in the chord straight away. Da, that one's does too. Then we do actually go to the 7. Da da, unexpected. Da, and then the 7 of the next chord, which is really, I don't know, it feels like something she might have done previously in a different song. But regardless, I think it's a quite cool move. Da da da, because the bass is going dum dum, and that note is going da da. So they've kind of got this weird parallel motion while keeping a dissonance between them. Yeah, interesting thing to do. Where's my phone? But it carries with it quite a lot of strange power. It's hard to exactly explain what's going on there. And then da da. Well, again, we started in chord da da, and then we went a little lower, and then we jumped da to that B flat, and then we're just sitting on the B flat for an extra bar, and then what happens after that? Pretty much the same thing, but with an extra guitar melody. The guitar melody not doing a vast amount. Let's just see what it is doing. Yeah, it's just occupying the same space. They're even very, very close in the frequency spectrum. Sometimes they're about a third apart. I don't think they ever sort of sit on the same note, which is interesting. Maybe right at the beginning. But yeah, and then Mitski finishes da da da, and it's up do do do. So for some reason we've got two melodies going on here, which is one more than you might expect, especially so early in a song. So that's a little bit confrontational, but yeah, in a pretty comfortable place. And like none of these chords that we've had here, they start off Pachelbel's canon basically. That would normally be minor, but same difference. And we're just missing off the end of Pachelbel's canon. So we've got roughly the same first 6 chords, and that's all the chords we've got. So I tried and tested sequence here with the slight hiccup of that 4th chord there being the D major, which doesn't really fit in the key. So that's a little bit of scrunchiness for you. What comes after 2 of these? Are they verses or is this a chorus? Not really clear at the moment. Texturally, yeah, not much changing here, but it feels like a real band just playing. Okay, quite a change up here. So if we were in B flat major before, we're moving sort of to G minor as in this new section. That's where we're starting, and I guess the D major that we had before sort of says that there's a hint towards G minor being, oh, did I say G major? Gosh, G minor. It's very late. As our sort of home overall, but yeah, we definitely get a lot of that in this next section, and the melody really changes in loads of ways. Before we got a little bit of movement, but broadly we got only a few different words to each little bit of melody. Here, loads of words, loads of notes. Yeah. Oh yeah. As well as that, before we get to G, and in fact, it's G major. Maybe my subconscious knows things better. We got an A flat chord, so that's not in the key that we were in before. Which is really fun. It's a modal shift up basically, whereas this one might be like it kind of functions like a secondary dominant, so it kind of suggests moving to G minor. We just don't treat it like that in the context. This A flat is really darkening our harmony quite a lot and leading us to G, which then suddenly brightens the harmony again, this G major. Yeah, and we get this interesting melody. Yeah, and then instead of this D7, we get a minor third in there. But we do have the major one in the guitar chord, so we're getting a really, really big dissonance here. But because the melody is moving so fast, it doesn't quite register in the same way that a held dissonance would. We're not getting anything like that. It's right, so it's almost imperceptible. It's just a little bit of extra sort of bite in the passing there. And yeah, I really like as a change. It sort of hints at like a Mixolydian feeling, but because again, like this is a major chord, there's a little more going on. But the melody itself is pretty much in a Mixolydian mode. The chords are a little freer, and there's a lot more play going on there, I suppose. Although the melody is going crazy. It's constantly moving. This is a little bit of an irregular thing for syllabic music. Most of the time when we have lots of syllables, lots of them will be on the same pitch. So we might get something like da 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 da, something like that. So we've got much less movement there. But this, we get two at the beginning, da 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 da, and then it's just constantly moving pitch. Yeah, really doesn't settle. Yeah, similar kind of thing there. Is it there? No, it's not, is it? It's there, is it? Let's hear it again. Yeah, so that second phrase there is like a shorter version, isn't it? Okay, but now we're not in this kind of area where we had that B, because we've gone to the E flat. If we kept the B, da da, not so nice. B flat, da, fits nicely, and the contour of the melody goes the same way. So we get a really similar bit of melody. We just go up and we don't come down. Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of movement then. So the chords are moving roughly one every bar, with the exception of that A flat, which comes a little, it just comes a little later actually than you expect, because we keep the B flat on longer. But yeah, that melody, sometimes it's shorter phrases and sometimes it's longer. Let's have another listen to it just so we can sum it all up. Yeah, so there's kind of two main modes going on for the melody, and one of them has the B and the other has the B flat. And so in that first part, we come down first time with the B, and then after we've gone all the way up, we've got the B flat. And then that second phrase doesn't really have a change, just settles in with that B flat. Then the third phrase starts with a B flat, and then just before the end we get the B. So going back to that first one again. And again, we've got three phrases here, so we're not doing what we might expect for a standard song with, 4-bar loops or four beat loops or anything like that. We're really doing things in slightly esoteric lengths. These are all different lengths, aren't they? Or maybe, yeah, the first one and the third one are kind of the same length, whereas the one in the middle, just it doesn't quite do things in the same way. What's really nice as well is that that third one, no, we change to the B as we get that A flat chord. And that A flat chord, B is really a foreign object to A flat. We would call it C flat if we had, no, sorry, would we? B is a foreign object, yes, we would call it C flat. But we've got a C in the chord, so we get this crazy dissonance as those both pass. But again, these aren't even held for a moment. It's just da da da, and we move straight on. Da da da. And then we're back in with our G major, I think. Yeah. Na, da, da, na, na. Ooh, actually, that is slightly different, that mode. Let's hear it again. Nothing in my hand. Yeah, so that one also has an E flat. And good point, we'd put that in the chords, hadn't we? And with the A flat. If we really cared about what modes were going on here, it would be a bit of a mess, but because we've got some things that suggest sort of a Phrygian relationship, this to this, whereas this to this, more of a Mixolydian feel, and then this to this, well, it kind of works as like Ionian in that key, but if we think of it based around the G, well, might be more like Aeolian. So we've got a whole mix of things sort of spanning Mixolydian, Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian, all these main modes, and our first part sort of felt Ionian to some degree, didn't it, with that extra chord. So this is what I'm talking about. You know, none of these modes are particularly unusual for someone well versed in music theory, but they are quite unusual for people who are just casually imbibing music, or maybe they have a real love of music and they haven't studied it. These things don't come up that often in music, and so this is a really good sort of halfway house from you know, it's using comfortable forms. The texture is entirely what we would expect it to be. You know, it's a rock band. It's got two guitars, a bass guitar, you know, a drum kit, and a vocalist. That's very, very simple, very accessible. And then, you know, this is kind of like a verse section, isn't it? And the previous part maybe was a bit more like a chorus, very straightforward melody, simple, singable. And the verse a little more complicated. So we're using verses and choruses as we might expect from a normal song. We've just got some other bits that are unconventional and lead this to occupy its own unique space just off center, if you like. Okay, this is interesting though. Because none of the other stuff was. Let's hear that again. Yeah, this is really fun. Because these chords, at least these two that we start with here, are kind of suggesting that we're back in our chorus section. But the melody doesn't suggest that. The melody very much... It says that we're in our verse section, but as well as that, it's not doing the same modes as we would expect in that, because we'd expect a B flat later and a B earlier in that one. That's how that goes. But this one, it reverses it. We get the B flat first, dee dee dee, and we get the B later, dee dee dee. That's especially crazy because the B does not fit at all with these chords, whereas all the other notes are really nice. That B is a real anticipation, I would say, of a G major. Let's see if that happens. It did. That's a G major. Let's just check the beginning again and see if it was actually G major when I called it G minor. Yeah, we're up at 50. where are we here? Can't hear a third there. I can't hear that. No, so I think that's more of a G minor, really. Whereas here, I can hear a third. Yeah. Do, do. And if it weren't there, the melody starts on it. Okay, so it's doing pretty much the same pattern as we heard in the verse just before, but it's reversed the B's and the B flats. Yeah. So before we had what chord was it? I think it was this. Da, 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 da. Okay, and this time. Da, 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 da. So a slightly different ending there, but the contour of the melody is the same, and the only thing that is different pitch-wise is whether it's a B or a B flat up till that final bit there. Oh, but there we actually get what we did have in the verse, exactly the same. And that's really departing from a standard mode by having the sharpened third and the flattened sixth, which doesn't exist in any, but is commonly associated with Phrygian dominant, as it's known, which is basically Phrygian with a sharp third. Like that. As if it's the dominant chord of a minor key, basically. So here we go. Like that, something like that. Yeah, although I have recently come across a reel which gave me the Andalusian key, scale, which is flat 6, flat 7, 3 and normal 2. Something like that. Anyway, that's just noodlery and not very important, but the point is that this last phrase, you could say that it changed mode halfway up and then changed back, but that's a bit silly. The point is it's halfway between two modes and quite a weird sound in comparison then. We also got that weird psychedelic echo kind of sound there for some reason. Wop 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 wop. Jung jung jung. Was that some strings? Maybe. The mix is not so you can't necessarily hear everything that's going on. Yeah, it sounds like there's something like a cello or something like that, and there's something doing some weird string sounds, but that could just be a guitar, but there's something going there. And we're going back to B flat. Is this a back to chorus? We kind of had a false back to chorus just before. Is this one back to chorus? Yeah. Yeah, and straight back in this time. That's kind of interesting because we had one chord's grace the first time. So we got da 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 da, right? So we got that middle bar where there wasn't much melody over there. But this time da da da. We go straight in without that dead bar. Interesting. Why don't we get that both times? Maybe just because it adds that bit of difference. It keeps the listener from becoming entirely complacent. Yeah, we've still got that extra guitar melody going on. pretty much disappeared in the verse sections, but here the other melody is simple enough that I guess we can allow another melody over the top without it becoming too crowded. And this time we get that dead bar. Oh, and another one. And another one. And then finally, back to the G major. Fun, really cool change. What was I gonna say? Yeah, we also got this other psychedelic, strange warping of the stereo space there. Whoop, 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 whoop. Let's listen to it again. Yeah. So it's pretty steady for the most part. Whoa, 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 whoa. And then as we get the chord change, it suddenly shifts up an octave. What a weird sound, but fun. And again, I guess this is something that is working on the textural level, isn't it? It's doing the same thing as what's happening in the harmony and the melody, but it's on the textural level. We've had something unusual on the structural level. I would say quite unusual on the structural level, but nonetheless doing quite a lot with a little change. We've had something weird on the melodic level. Again, it's got a quite powerful difference, but really only it's one note different in the main. There are a couple of other notes that change, but they're much less weighted than the B flat dynamic. Chords wise, we're sort of roughly around B flat major, and really it's only 3 chords that don't quite fit that, and one of them is a major version of a chord that would be in the key. So yeah, maybe my argument breaks down in the harmony. I would say she's more adventurous with harmony than with most things, but yeah, it's pretty fun either way. And now we're getting small textural upsets, small things that are shifting you out of your complacency in the textural field, which is really fun. What else could we play with? We could play with rhythm. Well, we've already talked about bar structures and how they are 7s sometimes, 6s other times. So that's something a little weird. But the rhythm is pretty reliable so far through this. Da 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 da. Just constant, really, isn't it? Very simplistic from the band behind the singing as well. This drives me insane. There's an actual bleep out of fuck. An actual bleep out in the song, not on the radio. And you know, it's not like this is even it has an explicit sign next to it. This song doesn't, interestingly, but Dead Women does. I can't remember why actually. I don't pay much attention to the lyrics, but maybe it's just because it's called Dead Women. I hope that's not going to get me destroyed on YouTube. I don't know. Anyway, it's crazy. The whole texture is disrupted for a moment by that bleep, which is something that used to happen more often. Doesn't really happen now. It's very funny that it's in the album version of the song. Also interesting how this is a verse section, but this is with a little bit of extra guitar melody in the background. But really, that is never taking precedence, is it? It's so interesting, the juxtaposition, having this clearly very well deliberately thought out melody in the foreground sung, and then pretty much some guitar noodling in the background, seeming much less planned, much less sort of dramatic or intellectual. Maybe it's really interesting, the juxtaposition. Okay, so this would be the fake re-entry of the chorus here, with the chorus chords, but the verse melody. Yeah, the guitar is fun. and we got that on that G chord, giving us the 7 of it really strong. But yeah, it's weird and very unpredictable, occasionally really cool, and not always. It's also quite far back in the mix. It's quite a noisy mix with a lot of drum, hi-hat, open hi-hat is making a big difference here. But yeah, the guitar, the main, like the melody guitar, is probably the least audible part of it. In fact, do we have a bass in here? Yeah, we do. It's pretty soft as well, but yeah, but you can hear it. Ho, ho, ho. That's increasing upon that that kind of string thing we heard before, with some vocals or something strange in that rain, and maybe some sleigh bells or something. Ching ching ching. Yeah, sounds like sleigh bells to me. Weird. And a repeat of it while we're waiting on this chord. We know that this chord goes to the B flat in the next section, but we're just waiting there. Shing, shing, shing. Shing, shing, shing. Yeah, fun. Well, this time we had that transition, not to an F major, which we've had before, but it's actually much more like this is Phrygian dominant, with an F minor chord that gives us that flat 2 feel. Get the idea? Well, this was unexpected. The texture keeps changing. Things are going weird there. But the melody, pretty straightforward. I mean, it's new, but it's just outlining the chord. Oh. Okay. Well, we're no longer feeling very Phrygian dominant. That's a sharp 11 to that chord. A sharp 4th degree of the scale. That's weird. That's weird. Maybe that's giving us Lydian mode, but realistically, I think weirder things are happening than that. And listen to the sounds in the background here as well. I've got that sharp 11 being held by some kind of strange distorted noise up there as well. Yeah, the guitar, the lead guitar, has gone to something very unusual. Let's hear it again. Yeah. It's not like that. It's something like that. It's very discordant, really not aiming for notes of the key anymore. Okay. An unexpected A major chord, that's a new one. Before we go back to G again. Well, I mean, the A major would actually suggest that we are in a Lydian mode here. Da 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 da. G major and A major do exist in Lydian mode together, so that's interesting. Sort of, yeah. I mean, very very different, and we've had 5 of the other 7. No, hang on. Have we? I guess we've had 5 of the other 7 modes here, so we're just adding in the 6th of the 7. If we end up getting some Locrian stuff before the end, I will think this is entirely deliberate. Yeah, lots more noise now, lots more reverb, and everything's sort of pushing at the compressor, pushing at the limiter, wanting to be the loudest thing. The bass is a lot more prominent, actually, going bum 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 bum, long notes and then short notes, or the other way around really. There's that A again. Real change in the texture as we get there. This feels sort of demonic, doesn't it? After the real comfortability of the other of the chorus section, at least. Where's my phone? Where's my phone? This is sort of simple. The melody feels simple, but there's so much going on, and the harmony is weird. And in fact, even the melody is pretty weird, even if it's moving very slowly and comfortably. So, yeah, we're getting a real sense of demonic chaos here. And a sudden transition to an instrumental section with the chords of the chorus. That's nice. And what's taking dominance here? It is the guitar, the lead guitar that has been sat there in the background the whole time. Now it's in the foreground. Yeah, and it starts there. Tremolo picking that E, which is really good on the A chord. And then as we get to the B flat chord, it's a real dissonance, a real held, suspended note there that eventually resolves into that chord. Now, this has to be on purpose, and I've only just realized, and I thought it was a little weird the first time, but what this, I hadn't quite worked it out the first time I listened, but what this is doing, this melody, it sounds kind of like it's aping the main melody, and it is, but it's not as straightforward as just doing the same melody. Well, let's hear them together, okay? So the other one starts here. That's if we have both of them at the same time. Let me see if I can hum the bass at the same time so we can see how that's working. Okay. Do 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 do. Okay. Well, we know from before that main melody fits really nicely with those chords. But the new melody is up a tone the whole way through. So it does not. It does fit quite nicely there. And it ends back on the E that it started on, which was a real big dissonance. In fact, we have an E flat chord just before it, so it's another change of the mode unexpectedly. And it's doing it again. So repeating the same melody of a piece a tone up, it does happen, and it only happens, except in this piece, it only happens when we have had a key change up a tone. So, you know, what's an example? We might get "I Will Always Love You" down here, you know, and I will always love you. And then at some point it might go, and okay, and it would go up. If we did that higher melody but we didn't change key, it would sound like this. And I will always love you. I will always love you. Right? Can you see that doesn't work? It also doesn't work in this song. But work is a little bit of a pejorative. It works in a little bit of a different way, let's say. In an unconventional way. You know, this is something that breaks my rule as well, because this is something that anyone with half a musical brain would see this as a really cool idea, even if they hate the execution of it. It's so odd, and it does it twice. It is the only song I've ever come across which does something like this. Yeah, well done, Mitski. Good stuff. Okay, and a slight disruption to the rhythm just before the end. We've had this constant bam, 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 bam the whole way through, and then we have this slight slowdown, jump, 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 and then the rhythm disappears and we get just lots of noisy stuff, again competing for attention there. So we disrupted the music on virtually every level here. You know, if we run through them, maybe we didn't have many dynamic differences. Mostly it was all the same dynamic level, pretty loud. But I would say that as the cacophony came in towards the second half, perceived noise levels were higher. And so, you know, that by itself is not a particularly unusual thing to happen in a song. So maybe on the dynamic level, we kept it pretty vanilla. But on virtually every other level, we did straightforward things in an unconventional manner. Like all of those chords are basically major or minor. There are brief moments of extended chords with sevenths and things like that, and a sharp 11 at one point. And then it's just the relationships between them which are so unconventional or just unusual. Melody-wise, almost always pretty straightforward leaps, you know, 1/5, 1/6 in the main melody in the chorus, and then just stepwise stuff, but it, being treated in a very different way to a standard very syllabic song, just constantly moving. Yeah, so it's just pushing the envelope that bit further. Texture we've already talked about, started to get crazy, didn't it? You know, it's hard to do something fundamentally groundbreaking with texture, I think, because we're kind of used to massive amounts of studio trickery these days, and we're always on the lookout for a band setting that is suddenly going to explode into something else, and boy did it do that in this. And yeah, structurally, I mean, it's kind of just chorus verse bridge, and then two instrumental versions of the chorus again at the end. Did we have one more chorus at the end, or was it just the instrumental? It was just the instrumental, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. It's sort of leading into the verse there, but it never happens. So that's a fun thing. Yeah, we kind of have a very simple structure there, but our main craziness was when we got the chords from the chorus and they just didn't sound right because they were over the verse melody. That is a pretty clever thing to do. So a kind of theme there of things happening over sections where they shouldn't, or where classic knowledge would say they shouldn't. So what are we going to put in this musical bingo? We're going to be honest, we did have kick drum on all beats, didn't we? Oh, maybe we didn't. Let's just take a certain section of the song.
If night is like a
Okay, no, we don't. We have kick drum on 1 and 3 basically, so we can get rid of that one. And I think what we should put in its place is we should put essentially what I want to put is marrying two different sections together. Let's just put that, marrying two sections. Marrying two sections. I'm getting pretty good with this actually, aren't I? Much better at drawing these words than I used to be. Oh, he's spoken too soon. That's horrendous. Okay, marrying two sections. You know, the texture, nothing to write home about there. We've already got stuff to do with modal interchange. Yeah, I mean there are other things, aren't there? Well, what the verse melody, which is constantly stepwise or something like that. So OTT stepwise motion, why not? Let's put that. We did have a bit of an improvised feel. Let's get rid of robotic voice, I think. And we'll go, I don't know why I've got no drums. O T T stepwise motion. OTT stepwise. That's my DJ name. And yeah, well, okay, yeah. Keys not matching, I think, is what we should put. That's because the melody of the guitar was in the tone up and the harmony was not. So keys not matching is going to replace no drums, I think. Keys not matching is an insane thing. Yeah, this song I'm particularly fond of. The whole album itself, I think, is the best example of Mitski doing this thing of being occasionally very, very interesting and then also very, very not, at least to me. Quite a few of these songs occupy exactly the kind of niche that you might expect from, you know, the beginning of them to the end of them. They sound exactly how you would expect. There might well be interesting things in the lyrics, and I always discount that kind of stuff in my appraisal. And then some of them also have sort of slightly unusual harmony things going on, but those feel more in keeping with the subgenre of alternative music that they fit into. Yeah. That said, there are still some cool things on, and I mentioned them at the beginning. Anyway, what do we got? Long song, no. False relations, yes, absolutely. Unexpected section addition. That's a difficult one. I suppose the second part of the verse is an unexpected section addition, because it was kind of like the chorus, but then it wasn't, so it's like a new section, so yeah. Harmonic pattern. Don't think we really had a harmonic pattern here. Unusual chord sequence. Yes, certainly. Modal interchange. Certainly. Multi-octave cohesion. No. Apart from kind of from the guitar and the bass, but I'm not going to give it for that. Key not matching. We know. OTT stepwise. Approximate pitch. Not really. I think mostly very well sung and very well played. Held dissonances, certainly there were a few. Well, How, yeah, I guess the guitar really holds some dissonances at the end, doesn't it? There was an instrumental. There was not a gigantic reverb. Even at the end, I wouldn't call it a gigantic reverb. There was kind of polyphony, we'll allow it, because there was the guitar noodling on top of the main melody all the way through. Contrary motion, not that I was really aware of. Improvised feel, yeah. Rhythmic displacement, no. Just melodic displacement in a weird way. Slow build in texture, no, not really. Big texture all the way through. Instrumental and vocal unison, no. Upright bass, sadly not. Linear, no. Baritone sax, no. Sonata form, no. Other worlds, chord change, actually no. It would have fit in just fine, but there wasn't one. Marrying two sections, though, there was. Wow, we ran around the skirting board of that board, and we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. Not a great score. Yeah, and we did quite well not getting any lines. There was really a close one on the right side there. Never mind. Well done, Mitski. Cool song. Yeah, go back and listen to the rest of Mitski's catalogue. There's plenty of it at this stage. Laurel Hell is a weird one. Interesting for a lot of reasons that are different to the rest of her music. Whereas I would say Puberty 2, Be the Cowboy, and This Land is Inhospitable, and So Are We, all the ones I've listened to, basically occupy a similar place. Laurel Hell, though, quite different. I will vouch for that. Even though I'm not hugely familiar with it, Mitski is not one of my favourite artists. She does have some really wonderful things that she puts into her music, and I applaud her for that. Have a great day. Enjoy yourself, and wonder at the mysteries of the universe. Bye.